when you walk with open arms towards the sun. You feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive, and you don't have to be afraid of anything, 'cause you know.
Welcome to the Bassline. Salvatore Kettenbell is a developer and programmer. He builds websites, programs, and web-based applications. As a technologist, he is going to help us dive further into the discussion concerning the bio-digital convergence. It is with great intrigue that I welcome to the Bassline Salvatore Kettenbell. How are you this morning, Salvatore?
Not too bad, man. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for joining me. So a couple quick announcements before we get in this incredible discussion. First of all, please remember October 26th is the next 528 Frequency Jam in Harlem at Rock Mill Fitness. That is 274 Lenox Avenue, just barely south of 125th Street, just a little south of 124th Street, actually. And the doors are at 3:30 p.m., and that is Sunday, October 26th, the last Sunday of the month. So, please come through. We'd love to see you. We'd love to see you again. We'd love to meet you, whatever the case may be. We've been having an incredible time. The music is really interesting. It's sort of a new hybrid sound, combining contemporary and indigenous elements, and it's all tuned to the 528 frequency, which I've been completely fascinated by and immersed in since my first interview with Dr. Leonard Horowitz, who wrote the book 528, The Frequency of Love. Secondly, please go to jeremiahhosea.com. If you haven't already, please buy the theme song for this show, Love's the Highest Truth. That's me on bass and vocals with a bunch of awesome original musicians supporting my vision on that song. And if you buy it for just $1, you're actually doing an incredibly good deed. I heard Gary just now asking for support for PRN, and I second that motion. We need your help sustaining this institution. And if you make a nice donation to PRN, please factor me in by maybe buying my theme song for $1. Or, of course, you can go to my Substack and become a paid subscriber, where I've written 34 articles so far, and I'm going to continue to write. Every article sort of takes on an original perspective, and I'd really appreciate your feedback. There are great comments and conversations beneath each article. So please roll over to Substack and partake in the articles that I've written. And lastly, of course, I'm a chess teacher, and I actually really need new students. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm a very experienced chess coach, been teaching for over 20 years, players of all different ages and experiences. But I'm homebound basically right now, because my mother-in-law, who used to be so helpful, she's finally gone back to the motherland. She's back in her native country where, she had helped us for the past few years, which was incredibly helpful. But now I'm on the front line doing breakfast in the morning, lunch, and all that stuff for the kids. And it restricts my ability to teach, basically. I can't take on all the teaching jobs I would normally do. So there is a need for more private students. And I will tell you that if you've never played chess before, don't be intimidated. I'm going to break everything down for you. If you have a loved one who would appreciate a package of chess lessons, you can, buy them some fancy thing for their birthday, but then maybe add, 4 or 5 or 10 chess lessons for their intellectual benefit. And, it's the game of kings and the king of games for a reason. All the metaphors of life contained in the game. And actually a great investment in your brain health is actually a proven fact about chess, that it gets the neurotransmitters firing and helps stave off degenerative mind diseases or brain diseases, which are pretty common, unfortunately, dementia, Alzheimer's, etc. So those are the different ways you can support this program. Please choose to do so, because I'm here tirelessly. Today is the 114th episode of this program. That means 114 straight weeks of Medical Freedom Radio, no reruns, no sick days. I've been here, I've shown my consistency, and I'd really appreciate some support for that effort. But in the meantime, we're going to get into this discussion that we have on hand today. And this guest today, he's a very fascinating individual, as you're about to hear, and he has incredible insights into what we term the bio-digital convergence. And he has some really interesting things to say about what has occurred here on the planet Earth in the past few years. Now, let's get right into it, and I'm going to just preface this a little bit by saying we've discussed all sorts of things on this program, and a couple of guests have actually ventured into that forbidden territory, which is the idea that the COVID injections are injectable operating systems. Now, before you say that this is absolutely crazy, before you say, oh, that's off the wall, that's impossible, let me point to a few things. You have Moderna on their own website gleefully saying that they have innovated this method of an injectable operating system, basically. They referred to their products as operating systems as though it was a positive thing, and then maybe thinking, maybe the public's not ready for that. Those words were taken down from the website after prominently being featured there. But there are some screenshots. We do have hard copies of them using that language. We have Yuval Noah Harari, who has been called the philosopher priest of the World Economic Forum, saying again with mischievous glee in his voice that COVID will be remembered as the time when surveillance goes under the skin, he says with devilish delight in his voice. And what did he actually mean by that? And then a parallel that my mind draws is I think back to 9/11, and 9/11 occurred, and all of a sudden we're seeing the introduction of the homeland security industry, and all of a sudden every private citizen has a cell phone, and the cell phone is now becoming responsible for more and more of our lives. People doing their banking on their cell phones, getting on the train with their cell phones, listening to all their music through their cell phones, their email communications through their cell phones. I mean, our cell phones clearly are computers with telephonic capacity. They're not phones, first of all. But then what if that wasn't good enough? What if monitoring us through these devices, frankly, wasn't good enough? And like Yuval Noah Harari said, it's time to go under the skin. Because a cell phone, as great as it is for monitoring us, you can take the battery out of a cell phone. You can take a cell phone and toss it in the river. Whereas if something is part of your internal system, well, you can't be separated from it, right? The surveillance never ends. So all that being said, just to set the background for this discussion, I want to hear what you, Salvatore, have to say about the COVID event. And is it possible, is it the case that the injections people received were part of a technological interface?
Yes, definitely. 100%. That is guaranteed.
Wow.
And the reason why we know this is because they, like you said, advertised it on their own website. I mean, when you first read it, you think they're, being metaphorical, but they're not. They were being literal. A lot of the articles that they're releasing are literal. But, at first when you read it, you're like, I don't understand it. Is this a metaphor for something? And then you realize that, no, they're being literal about it. So you were 100%. And, what was in those vaccines that's important was embedded quantum dots, right? That's what makes this all possible. So, you want to ask what biodigital convergence is, and it is essentially broken down into three categories. Your mind, body, and soul, right? And how they do that is physical, digital, and quantum. So, if they wanted to grab people and, I guess insert them in the metaverse, as they literally state, what would you need to do that? How is that done? Is that possible, right? So as you're reading these documents, you're like, okay, so now I know why they did that. So people are asking, how did they get the nanotechnology in us? It wasn't in the vaccines, right? there were embedded quantum dots in the vaccines, right? Those are really important. But technically, the nanotechnology has been in our food and water for like the past 10 years. And it was part of this project called Nano Domestic Quell. I urge people to look into that. That's important. The reason why it's important is because if you look at the antimicrobial resistance surveillance, which is a mouthful, guess who's behind it? Bill Gates, Pfizer, the CDC, USDA, and the FDA. And, so breaking it down to some basic, right? The three fundamentals: mind, body, soul, physical, digital, quantum. And that's basically how they're doing it. So they use this thing called the human embedded system. This is a system in which they embed the technology into you. And how they do that is, I guess the best way to kind of think about it is you need, hardware, right? So like any software, you need a computer, right? Hardware. Then you need an operating system to run that software. And that's kind of like what they're doing now, except they're doing this through tissue chips, right? You ever hear of the tissue chip consortium?
No.
They're very important. Guess what? 2010, it was Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and GlaxoSmithKline, DARPA, the NIH, the CDC, all of them got together and they said, let's create human-based or organ-based microchips. That's what this entire thing is. So they smuggle in the materials to construct chips. Now, they can't just put a circuit board inside of people, right? That's not possible. But what they can do is emulate a signal and connect them to an actual system, a physical system, one built on hardware. And so best way to kind of look at this is like this. Think about a wireless keyboard, right? Think about how it connects to your computer, right? It's wireless. But how does your computer know the keys that you're pressing, right? And send the signal and all that? So it's like that. They're doing this using this platform called Adreno, right? It's a platform for connecting hardware, right, using wirelessly, right? So you can create custom software to connect a physical device wirelessly to another device. Now, remove one of the devices and insert a person in place of that other device. Could you connect a physical item to that person wirelessly? And that's what they're doing. That's the best way to sum this up. I mean, you can look into Adreno tissue chips. That's important. The entire microfluidic devices, they're massively important because they simulate liquid flow, right? So a lot of this stuff they're calling simulation. Well, what they're not telling people is this is going to be simulated live. They're testing this right now as we speak. And like how they bridge everything together is, honestly, it's a lot of information. The best way to sum it up is physical, digital, quantum.
Right.
Just keep it in those three easy categories, and it makes it a little easier to understand. Physical encompasses biological. So physical, when they're connecting you physically, they need a lot of things all in place, right? So these items that they're using are synthetic chromosomes, right? That's the key, honestly. That's what connects you to digital ID. And again, please, everyone, research this yourself. It's not that hard to find. Just do synthetic chromosome GA4GH.
Synthetic
That's the
chromosome
digital ID.
GA4GH.
Yep.
Right. So I hope everyone has a notepad handy. This is one of those episodes. You're going to need one for sure. And I guess if we could go at a broad overview for a moment, could you just give us sort of a little bit of back history? I mean, I know this could go on forever and ever, but a summary as well as you can of what we're referring to when we refer to the bio-digital convergence and sort of the agenda that goes along with this. This is a very sort of aggressive agenda that seems to be looking to change the human race. I mean, it's connected to transhumanism, is it not?
Yeah, it's all part of the fourth industrial revolution. So the one thing, how, like, you know how they say the Internet of Bodies?
Yeah.
Right? They're not transforming technology, they're transforming you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That sounded kind of like metaphorical, but no, it's literal. They are literally doing it, and they're advertising it.
Right.
And for people who don't believe it, just ask yourself, COVID, when it happened, did anything make sense? What was really happening during COVID? Like, they were testing this system on a larger scale. Now, this system they've already tested back when the SARS thing happened. They used a program called Dante, as in Dante's Inferno. So when these people called these people, like when people call them Luciferians, they are. There's no doubt about it. There's a reason why they chose to model everything after Dante's Inferno. There's a reason why we have an entire department called Inferno Health IT. Think about how ridiculous that name is in and out of itself. Right? Health, IT, Inferno.
Yeah.
Like, and then when you find out,
not an ideal name for a healthcare provider.
Well, that's the thing. It's not a provider as much as it is a government agency.
Right.
So this is a unilateral government agency, not just the U.S. Like, so what their job is when somebody shows up as infected, right, to deploy medical countermeasures. And a lot of people are asking, oh, how are they going to do that? Like, it's a gigantic system. But at the end of the day, remember 2019, they followed through. You know, they stepped it up a notch. And they're going to step it up a notch unless we all do something about it. You know, when you were talking about the smartphone, you were absolutely right. Like, it's not... So right now we're in the early stages of this. So there's some testing happening. I'm watching it because of developers. So I know when they're outsourcing for developers and what they're asking them to do. You know, oh, I need you to build this. And the stuff that they're asking them to build are biosensors, right? Well, not the actual biosensor itself, but the communication language that reads a signal. So, you know how they said that there was graphene in the shop?
Yeah.
Right?
What's your take
on that? The reason, well, they're 100%, and even if they weren't in the shots, it's in the water. I can promise you that. So, this entire system is founded on their truth, which is graphene is in everything. It has to be. It's only because of graphene they can do any of this. Right. So, yes, of course, that other, the mRNA is important, or the mod mRNA is important. The synthetic chromosomes are important. But without graphene, all of this is for nothing. That's important because graphene is the one thing that actually traverses quantum, physical, and digital. All three. It crosses all three of their check mark, if you will. You want to cross all three platforms, you use graphene. It's not just a conductor, right? It has a lot of uses. This has a lot to do with the whole tissue chip consortium and emulating biological tissue chips, right? So, like, and the whole wireless keyboard example I gave, when you hit the W on the keyboard, sends a certain signal across the circuit board, right? That signal gets interpreted and relayed to the computer as a W. They're doing this right now. And I can show you, like, if you look at Adreno and you look at their platform, you'll see that they have a cloud-based platform in which you create virtual circuit boards. They're creating these virtual circuit boards not because they want to design physical circuit boards, but because they're going to use it to simulate a circuit board in a human person. Because
Wow.
once you have graphene, you can control it via electricity. So why do you think the new prescriptions are electrical? It's called electric RS, or RX, rather. It's important because that was around the same time as the tissue chip consortium, 2010. So by now, it's already 15 years more advanced. So it's a lot of information, but the best way to break it down is physical, digital, quantum. Whatever they're doing in one area, they're doing in the other two. How they get to the biodigital convergence, how this is all possible, is the human embedded system. Mind, body, and soul. Quantum takes care of the soul, right? Body, or physical, is body and mind. Digital is the communication to the digital platform. And how they're doing this is using different communication techniques. So the reason why the shots were so important, right, was because of the embedded quantum dots. That takes care of the digital communication that they need. As far as the physical, right, they're using molecular communication. Whether people know this or not, the byproduct of the nanotechnology inside your body, it's protein corona. And protein corona is special because what they can do with it is they can use it to cover nanoparticles. So they can cloak them when they want it to be invisible by your immune system. So if they want to hide the nanoparticles from your immune system, they can trigger the protein corona to attach itself to the nanoparticle to make it invisible. That's important because a lot of this stuff is happening stealthily. You know, you look into some of their systems, and you can tell that they want everything remote and automated, right? So they're putting AI in charge of everything. AI is a huge thing in this. They have different AIs for different functions. They're going to have one AI that runs all of it, and I imagine it's Watson AI, and then you have Google's DeepMind, which is important too, because they're both at the dead top of this. But what's going to come soon, what's coming up very soon, is digital ID. People are talking about it now, but what they're not telling you is already implemented, right? And they're testing these applications as we speak. Don't believe me? Just Google search DH12 or DHI12.
DHI12.
Yeah, it's DHIS2. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. DHIS2. So jot that down, everyone.
Right. You'll see that they have multiple applications already, and these applications are a client profile, that's you, right? Vaccination confirmation, which is important, and then metadata. So the metadata is really important because they're hiding genetic modifications under metadata. I know it sounds ridiculous, right? It really does when you say it out loud, but once you read enough of this, you see, okay, nobody in their right mind would design a system founded on that truth if they weren't certain about its capability. You just wouldn't do it. So as a person who follows the software and their applications and networks, I find that extremely important. People need to understand that because They don't care at all. They care so little that nobody was held accountable for what they did. It's been 5 years and not one person has been held accountable. Remember the whole thing that they were saying about how they're going to take the vaccines off the schedule? Still haven't seen that. Still on the schedule.
Wow. Yeah, it's really terrible. Yeah, that's why I really ask folks, if you're listening, we're halfway through the program here. If you're still tuned in, if you're a Bassline listener, you're a PRN listener, really think of what you can do to hunker down and join even more intensively in this struggle, because it's one of these things that if we don't confront this, it's not going to go away on its own. We need folks standing shoulder to shoulder, being armed with the information, but also prepared to support each other and prepared to function as a movement to stop this. Because, yeah, this is humanity on the line. I mean, who knew we were going to inherit this kind of struggle in our lifetime? But if we don't stop some of these forces, it's ball game over for the human race as we know it. If you would like to join our discussion, the number is the same as always. Hopefully you have it already committed to memory. 888-874-4888. 888-874-4888. We'd love to hear from you. So please jump online and prepare your question for my guest, Salvatore Kettenbell. But in the meantime, Salvatore, I know you mentioned Luciferians, but in general, what more can you tell us in terms of who's behind this global initiative, basically? Because when I saw COVID, I said, wait a second, is this the most coordinated effort in the history of the world? That all of a sudden even political enemies are all on board for this COVID agenda, and they were all in unison as though they were being puppeteered by the same puppet master. Now we have the incredible case which has been covered on this program, Brooke Jackson versus Pfizer, where Pfizer in a court of law testified and said that they were doing everything as they were instructed to do by the Department of Defense. But that doesn't really explain the global orchestration of this, because then I would say, okay, is the Chinese government taking orders from the U.S. DOD? Are the Russians taking orders from the DOD? That just doesn't seem possible. How do you see the hierarchy being structured? Who's at the top of the pyramid? Is it AI already, which is one theory? Is it, I mean, sorry for sounding crazy, is it extraterrestrial? Who's orchestrating this?
Well, it's definitely, all right, so if there's a top, it's definitely DOD. It's definitely the UN. They're the only ones, like, if you ever look into the creation of the UN, right?
Yeah.
And you look into how a group of people want to take over the world, what do? You embed soldiers in each country. One way of doing it is through embassies, right? And that's kind of why the UN is there. And I get it now. Like, I get now why the C40 cities, right? It's a group of all their infiltrators. Just in the U.S., you can see them. But you can see them everywhere.
Well, we lost you. Salvatore, are you there?
Yeah, he dropped out.
Can you try to get him back for us, Kevin?
Yes, I'm going to call him right back.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we have a new engineer, relatively new. He's been here for more than a month. Almost. How long has Kevin been here? I'm not sure. More than a month, less than 2, I think. But he's doing a great job, and we're in good hands. He's fixing some things up around here, and he has his own program on PRN, which I recommend you tune into. But hopefully we'll get Salvatore.
You could have...
Hold on a second, Salvatore. We
Sure.
lost you altogether. Somehow your audio completely dropped out when you said something kind of that we're not supposed to know.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly now. So where did we leave off exactly? You were talking about soldiers being embedded by means of embassies, and what did you say right after that?
Yes. So it's the Committee of 300, UN. They have soldiers, if you want to see who's on their team, just go to the C40's website, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'll see mayors and governors in the U.S. that are a part of that global team. So NGOs, like, it's really funny because when you think about it, you start to see, oh, my God, the whole global coordinated effort is through all of these third parties, right? So these NGOs that they have, like when they flooded everybody's country, the Red Cross is the one who helped them. Like, okay, that makes sense now. Like, what most people didn't know was that the Red Cross also trained some of those migrants to be emergency responders, because their game, and this is a game to them, is going to be under the disguise of public health emergency. They're going to follow through with their plans. And their plans are, they're going to attempt to integrate you into this global system, mind, body, and soul, and they will do it until you die, or they're successful, one or the other. But they're not going to clearly state that. They're just going to do it under the disguise of medical countermeasures and public health emergency. If you don't believe me, look at Title 42 of the United States, our laws, Title 42, and look at public health emergency. And you'll see that as of today, still, the current medical countermeasures is whatever vaccine product is available. So, we may think everything is fine, but it's not, because at any point they can enact that. The fact that that's even there, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
The fact that they bypassed informed consent, they no longer need to tell you that you're enrolled in a clinical trial. Why is that important? Because when these pandemic outbreaks happen, they're not going to be because of some unknown disease. It's going to be because of remote genetic testing on live people. In a real-world scenario, right? No one's going to know where it's coming from, because they're doing this at the molecular level. There's a finite amount of people that have that type of, technology or equipment to view this. And even if they did, do they know what they're viewing? Right? But that's why it's important, because the entire molecular communication system is massively important. That's their control system on the physical side. Quantum dots is their communication on the quantum side, or quantum communications, because, they can send information instantaneously anywhere around the world. And that's...
Uh-oh. Don't know what happened. We lost him again there.
Yeah, his call keeps dropping for some reason.
So I'll say in the meantime, a great compendium, I guess, to go along with this discussion would be, please go to the Bassline archives, which hopefully you're familiar with. Every program here is archived. So you go to the Bassline, that's BASSLINE, thebassline.podbean.com. thebassline.podbean.com. Please put that in your browser now, and you'll see all the episodes of this program. So you can copy and paste and just share them all around. Share them on social media, share it through direct text messaging, share it on WhatsApp, Instagram, DMs. Go across all the platforms and share these discussions. And today's discussion goes along with our previous discussion with our guest Paul Franks. So that's the Bassline episode 100, where we really ventured into this discussion of the bio-digital convergence in a new way. But then also go back and listen to our 2 interviews with the visionary, I guess you could say. She's a legend in her own right, absolutely, which is Dr. Rima Lebeau.
I got him back on the line.
Excellent. So yeah, please go back to the Bassline archives, find the episodes where I interviewed Dr. Rima Lebeau, and also episode 100 where I interviewed Paul Franks, both of which could be compiled with the information shared on today's episode to give you quite a bit of fuel for your fire in terms of research about what's happening with this crazy bio-digital convergence, the transhumanist agenda, and all the stuff that our human race is suddenly being subjected to. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. We lost you again, Salvatore, but continue, please.
Yeah, sorry about that. My phone cut out. It was unusual. I don't know what's happening, but maybe it's just a coincidence.
Glitch in the matrix, as they say.
But that information's important. C40 website. That's how you'll know infiltrators in any city around the world.
Say the website again.
It's called the C40.
And you get to it by just typing in
C40.
The letter C
Google.
and the number 40.com.
Yep. Yeah, just type in C40 cities.
C40 cities. Okay. Now this reminds me, folks, of a really interesting interview I did with an AI, and I'm reluctant when it comes to AI as well, but there's a really intriguing AI system that is in the possession of my I should say is being utilized by my friend and former guest of the Bassline, who will be back at some time soon. Harry Fisher I call him America's paramedic. Harry Fisher's been reporting from the front line about all the carnage he's seen since the vaccine rollout. And he has an incredible AI system, which has not even been released for public use yet, but it gives you all sorts of answers that you're not going to get from the generic sort of commercial Chat GPT, Grok style AI interfaces, which almost to me come across as shills when you ask them medical freedom related questions. But you get the real deal from this system. I called it TKNN, the truth knows no name, because when we asked the AI system, what's your name? It said the truth knows no name. So that's what I named it in the meantime. But my second interview with that AI system, called Scratching the Surface, goes into all sorts of topics that you might be too daunted to venture into on your own. So this AI system gives us a good jump start in a variety of different questions. And I think I want to compile notes pertaining to this particular interview and scrutinize it with that AI system, because this is heavy duty stuff, and we need to start mapping it out and understanding as well as we can so we can explain it to others. Now, we are approaching the quarter to the hour mark. It's 1:42 here on the East Coast. We had Paul on the line, and somehow he dropped off. If you're out there, Paul, please call back. We'd love to hear from you. And in general, jump on the phone, guys, 888-874-4888. Talk to my guest, Salvatore Kettenbell, while you have the chance. But Salvatore, if you could tell us, I know you're pretty low key, but I'm honored that you're taking the time to do this interview. And I think the more people hear from you, the better, frankly, because time is of the essence here. We need people to get educated as to what the heck is going on with these things that you're describing here. Can you direct us towards, you've mentioned quite a bit already in this interview, but can you direct us towards, one, where people can support you, if that's out there, if there's a channel or a means by which people can support you, but also, and keep track of your work, and also just a few other resources, reference points. What would you direct people towards so they could start to get their bearings on this difficult topic?
They can follow me on X. My username is UC Workroom. I have a bunch of channels on Telegram that I just store a lot of research, like 6 years worth, a lot of research. And so any of this stuff can always be double-checked, and I'm always a fan of someone helping me or in any way, shape, or form, because, this is a group effort. I didn't get to any of this by myself. It's through awesome people that I've worked with, that have helped me get here, and so if you want more information, just see me on X at UC Workroom.
Excellent. So yeah, that's UC Workroom, everyone. And I know a lot of you guys are kind of old-fashioned in terms of staying away from social media in general, and I don't fault you for that. But once again, I have to tell you, I think it would be a good idea to start a medical freedom dedicated X account. That way you can support the Bassline content that I republish. My handle, by the way, on X is at EarthDriver, EarthDriver. Look me up at EarthDriver. Please follow me. Please follow UC Workroom. And yeah, we have nightly spaces through our Stop the Shots community, which is another thing I'd like to invite you to join. We're approaching 5,000 members, so please help us reach that milestone by 1, joining the group, and 2, telling friends about it. But actually, if you started an X account, joined Stop the Shots, and then deleted your X account, or not your account, but rather deleted your X app off your phone with no intention of using it, I'd appreciate it, because Stop the Shots is, as I've called it, a living petition. But even better, I would recommend don't delete the app and join our nightly spaces, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're on every night. You can go to my handle, actually, at EarthDriver, and if you go to my page and you see my profile picture when we're on at 9 p.m., there's a purple ring around my face with a microphone. That means we're in a live space. You click on that and just say join space, and you're right there in the conference call. Basically, you can request a mic to share your views with the group. And I would really like to see more interface between the PRN community that supports this program and the Stop the Shots community on X, because we need to get this information disseminated as widely and as quickly as possible. And everyone's sort of playing their own little quadrant of the chessboard isn't going to work anymore. We have to start reaching out and being a little bit more vast in our connections, because this is moving in pretty quickly, and we need to start responding in kind with a vigorous response. And a lot of people, as you may notice, a lot of people are very confused at this point in time. So it's time for people who see what's going on to start providing a voice of clarity and a voice of reason in a sea of confusion. So, Salvatore, we're approaching the last 10 minutes of the program here. What are some key points that we may have overlooked, or is there anything that comes to mind that should certainly be mentioned that we have failed to mention thus far? What jumps to mind in terms of something that you would impart on the audience that we haven't mentioned?
All right. So it would be software-defined radios, right? So that's how they connect. So software-defined radios is how they connect the nodes, right, or us, the human node. Again, you can Google this, human node, right? That's us. That's how they add you to blockchain. But essentially, the software-defined radios is important because that's how they're creating the communication. And then using Go, it's a programming language, right? They found a way to communicate with the graphene oxide. So I believe this is for a purpose. This was for this purpose or this reason. That's why they called it Go, because graphene oxide's abbreviation is also Go. And, the only difference really is the programming language is O is lowercase, whereas graphene oxide is both uppercase. And they do that through software-defined radios. So that's important. I forgot to mention that.
Very good. Yeah, so that's an interesting point in terms of the graphene oxide stuff, because that's been quite a dividing line, I'd say, in the medical freedom movement. There were people coming up with even microscopy showing, hey, look at this is graphene oxide, a self-assembling systems here, and they had images to go along with it. And then there were other people saying, oh, no, 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 let's not get too crazy here. We looked into the vials and there's no graphene. You know, what's your take on that? And have you spent any time looking into some of the microscopy that's come out of examining the vials? Because I've been saying, and I'm so far from having the means to organize such a thing, but I've been saying for a while, we need a COVID vaccine microscopy conference in terms of the different types of injections that they were offering people and all that could be found therein. Because I mean, I would imagine you might find different content between a Pfizer vial compared to Moderna, compared to J&J, compared to AstraZeneca, compared to the Russian Sputnik version, and I don't know how many other versions of so-called COVID vaccines were created worldwide. But then we could also not necessarily assume that what's in all the Pfizer vials is the same, right? You can have different categories or different sort of sections of the experiment or different batches, as they call them, different lot numbers and all this kind of thing. So how much have you looked into the question of the microscopy that's come out so far in terms of looking at the content of the vials?
Well, the reason for the difference of what people are finding, it's intentional. It was designed to confuse people so that nobody knows what the truth is. But at the end of the day, the truth is they're doing different methods to get to the same, goal. So there's more than one way to get to the same goal. Each vaccine deployed a different method. So in Moderna, you had SM-102, which is a synthetic luciferase, right? But in Pfizer, you had it coded, or encoded rather, in the mod mRNA. So again, luciferase, but two different ways of getting there. This is important because a lot of people are debating about this, that, and the other thing, but just remember what their plan is. And if you can easily, if you can do that, then to me it makes sense why some of them had it and others didn't. I believe that 100% because at the end of the day, they're just doing it a different way. What lot was it? So people, doctors, researchers, they will never post something extensively as well as they post it unless they found it. You can't make that up. Right? Because when you're reading something that's been made up, it's very easy to tell within the first paragraph. Okay, wow, this is nonsense. But then you, again, I understand the mechanics of the communication aspect of it, so I get it. And again, nano-domestic quell is an important thing people need to look up because, that's how they get the nanotechnology. It wasn't there's more than one way to get to the same conclusion. That's what they're doing. Each one had a different method. Johnson & Johnson had a different method, but the top two are Pfizer and Moderna. Moderna was the top. That was their fine-tuned one before the eventual vaccine that they're building up to.
You said Moderna is at the top.
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So, out of all the methods I've seen, right, I have a list of the ingredients in them. And, again, different methods, different ways, but more successful methods is literally the Moderna one. So, the way they're deploying SM-102 is a smarter way, in my opinion, of doing it through the encoding way. Because the encoding way through Pfizer has a less rate of success. A low rate of success. This is just after reading lots and lots of papers on it. So,
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, it is very strange. Some of the images that have been produced. I mean, related to that, and I would love to see it all examined under one roof with various experts. And by experts, I mean people who know what they're talking about, basically. I don't just mean the letters in front of their name or the letters after their name. I mean people who know what they're talking about, people who look at microscopes, who know electron microscopy, and determine what the heck is some of that stuff. Because some really bizarre images have been produced, and it's particularly disturbing when we know that the manufacturers were entitled to have secret ingredients in their formulas, right? Which is such a slap in the face to the public, that you're mandating that I take anything. I mean, frankly, I find to be unacceptable. I find all medical mandates to be a total violation of our rights and dehumanizing, etc. But mandating something that is rushed to market and has secret ingredients, so the corporation's right to profit, quote unquote, their right to protect their own patents or whatever, is more important than public health. I mean, everything is such a slap in the face. It's just one slap in the face after another if we bother to acknowledge any of these transgressions against our society. And on that note, also I want to mention something that we've discussed in the Stop the Shot spaces, which I find a little bit concerning, but I'm not going to call it breaking news per se, because this is something that's been on the table for a while. But we have started to, thanks to one of our particularly outspoken members, we've started to call into question the ICANN bill, because you have Del Bigtree of the High Wire and Aaron Siri, and I'm a fan of Del Bigtree, and I think he's done some great coverage and had some great guests. And I'm a fan of Aaron Siri. I think he's represented the movement very well in various high-pressure situations, like recently the Senate hearing with Ron Johnson. But I am a little bit concerned to look at the sort of watered-down language of the ICANN bill. And if we're vaccine abolitionists, which I am at this point, like I said, you've seen me or heard me right here on this program evolve from being someone who said I'm not an anti-vaxxer to someone who said, you know what, I'm actually an anti-vaxxer at this point. At this point, I'm a vaccine abolitionist, to take a term I got from my friend Dr. Leonard Horowitz. But this ICANN bill, if that's supposed to be the front line for our rights to deny invasive medical procedures, or to decline, I should say, invasive medical procedures, it's very watered down language. It's disappointingly watered down. And it uses things like, what's that term that they use? The vaccine confidence bill, what we would need to have confidence in our vaccines. I don't want that kind of language. I want the right to say no bill. N-O, period. As a good friend of mine says, no is a complete sentence. And it really bothers me that we have to engage in all this sort of wishy-washy language that, to me, concedes the upper hand to the bad guys. It tells them that they're in the right when they're in the wrong.
100%. Agreed, 100%. The fact of the matter is, no is not a right that's given. It's a right that we just have. So I understand why it's not in the bill, because no one's telling me what I can and can't do. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm not going to ever accept anything like that.
Oh, you cut out there. I heard someone say hi.
That was my wife. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Tell her you're on the radio. But go on with what you were saying, if you could. We're about to finish up here in the next minute.
Yeah, so I was just saying that we all have the right to say no, and that's going to be important, because they honestly are going to move forward with this, and they're going to do this under the disguise of public health emergency. We saw that through the pandemic, right? Different countries kind of had more extreme measures. The only reason why our measures weren't as extreme is because we have the right to bear arms. And that is an important thing to know, because, that's a very important right. We also, I guess the one thing that bothers me the most about them is they cloak all of their language under human rights when all of it is to take away your rights? Rights that we already have that we don't need permission for.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Very well said, and a great way to close out the program. And I want to thank you, Salvatore Kettenbell, for taking the time to join me. Everyone, please download this episode as soon as it's available. Also, go to YouTube and use the @ symbol at the Bassline. Remember, Bassline, at the Bassline podcast. Look that up on YouTube. Please subscribe. We're approaching 100 subscribers, but of course this program, with all the tremendous guests I brought to the table, should have thousands and thousands of subscribers. And through subscribing and directing other people to that, you're helping us get into the conversation. You're helping me get public speaking opportunities. You're helping me get interview opportunities and connecting with some of the larger platforms. So please fan the flames of dissent, help the Bassline see the light of day. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want you guys to have a great weekend. Stay strong. Keep fighting the good fight. Tune in for Stop the Shots tonight if you can. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace and love. Stay strong.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother.
Bye.